Okay. All right. Well, I just got a message saying meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. So whoever's here in the Facebook world, welcome to the Woods Hole Film Festival. We have a bunch of filmmakers who have participated in a group of short films that we've put under the category outside the box. Let's see, we have actors, we have a cinematographer, a director, producer, songwriter. So we have a nice collection of people here. So why don't we start simply by having the people who involved with these films introduce themselves and their films, briefly describing, their movies. Why don't we start with Split Second, directed by Julianne. Maybe you could start, Julianne, please, and we'll go from there.
Sure, I'm Julianne Donnell. I'm the director of Split Second. It's a short film. It's in the Musings on Mortality block. It's about a woman who is shoved from a cafe seconds before a bomb is detonated in it. And she has to kind of grapple with the guilt of survival. And I see my producer, Sabrina, on the other screen.
Excellent. Sabrina, there you are. Hi.
I'm Sabrina Stoll. I produced Split Second along with A. Salvador and Megan Jordan. It was written by Tiziana Giammarino, came up with the script, and also, raising the question of how can someone commit such a terrible crime and at the same time show that split second of humanity in them right before they commit that terrible crime.
Great. Well, thank you. Okay, and then we have, I believe, 3 people from Adnan. Where are you? Stephen, there you are. In this Brady Bunch construction, it's sometimes hard to find people. Anyway, hi, Stephen.
Hi. Hello, Woods Hole. I'm Stephen Chatterton. I am one of the 2 directors of Adnan. I have a creative partner called Mark, who sadly couldn't be here today. Adnan is a short film that is drama. When I explain the plot, people always think, oh, it's a documentary. No, it's drama, it's fiction, it's scripted. It's a very imaginative piece of storytelling that essentially tells a story from the perspective of a 10-year-old refugee boy who is trying to help his mother through the experience of her PTSD. She's experiencing PTSD. They've made it safely to the UK, and their journey, as arduous as it has been, is now beginning a whole new chapter. And the little boy has no idea what PTSD is. He just knows that mommy isn't well. And he knows that if anyone sees mommy like this, then they will be separated, and they've lost everyone else in their family. So he has to make mommy well again. And Adnan has a plan, and it's a great plan too. So I'd also like to introduce my 2 amazing cast members as well. Rahad, if you'd like to speak first, and then Aham.
Hello, my name's Rahad. I'm an actor based in London. I am of Syrian descent, and this film talks about a Syrian mother and son. I play the mother. And yeah, it's a beautiful film, which I'm very proud of. And I'm sure most of you guys have seen it. So you know what Stephen was talking about with the creative idea that the little boy has. But yeah, beautiful film, and we're very proud of it. And it's also in Arabic with subtitles. So that's really cool as well. Yeah, Aham.
Hi, my name is Aham, and I'm an actor. I'm an actor, and I acted for Adnan, and I really think the film is shows what Syrians go through, like when they come to like a different country to like escape the war. And it's a really beautiful film talking about the struggles, not about like how they come to like another country. It's just when they are in a country and trying to establish the like they want to live in it, and it's just like
No, that's good. Yeah, you're both of you are so good in the film. You know, wonderful acting. So thank you. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Let's see. Next we have from Circus Act, a rather unusual love story. Penny Peniston, the writer director. Let's see. There you are, Penny.
Hey, yeah. So my film's called Circus Act. It's about a clown who falls in love with this very womanly bouquet of balloons, and their sort of love story. And with me here is Ella Lubienski, our director of photography. Let's see. This film is a short film. It was actually written for, we were both students at DePaul University. It was a student film at DePaul University, and I basically had an assignment in a class to write a story that didn't have any dialogue. And I'm a former playwright, so that was a challenge. So the film was just, you know, it's just a no dialogue film. And it actually started because I had this dream one night while I was asleep. In this dream, I saw this giant bouquet of balloons just walking down the street, and it had legs and arms, but like the body was just this bouquet of balloons. And in the dream, I was asleep, and I was like, God, that's like a really cool image. And in the dream, I thought to myself, like, I wish I were like the kind of cool director who could think of a cool image like that. And then I woke up and I was like, hey, wait, that was my dream. I am that director. I can make this film. So that's how it came to be. And Ella came on board as a fellow student, and she did an amazing job with it. So
Yeah,
I'll let Ella say
definitely.
hello.
Hi, I'm Ella. I was the DP on Circus Act, and like Penny said, there was no dialogue, so it was a blast for me to work on something that was so visually oriented.
Absolutely. You literally pursued your dreams.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, thank you. And let's see, then we have from Pepper, we have Jail Pak.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Yeah, so I'm the director of Pepper, and Pepper is about oh my God, sex selective abortions during the 1980s in South Korea. Like, a lot of people know about China, but well, it wasn't mandated, but a lot of people were having, there was a preference for male offspring. So secretly people were having abortions, even though abortions were illegal nationwide, and even up until 1980. So the film is about a maternity ward during the 1980s, and a family dreaming about, you know, begging the doctor for a son. But you know, the Korean goddess of birth comes to the maternity ward like Santa Claus, but the family doesn't get quite what they begged for. I guess without giving away too much, basically the idea came from visiting my very conservative grandfather every Korean Thanksgiving. And every time he would always ask me, like, when are you going to get married and have a son? You know, I'm not married yet. So he's very conservative, so I can't, you know, make you know, jokes too much. But I made a joke. I said, hey, Grandpa, what if I was gay? You know, and then he got really mad at me. You know, he was like, you son of a bee, you know. But I thought it'd be really ironic if you know, they got what they wanted, but not quite, you know. So
Right.
That's where the idea came from.
Right. Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you. I was wondering how you were going to describe your film. It's a well, all these movies are complex in their ways, but you know, certainly even just to describe the plot is and you did a great job.
Yeah, surprisingly unexpected.
Let's see, and then we have from Making Samantha, T. Cooper, the director, and also oh my gosh,
whatever I am. I'll tell you.
oh, and
what I am. You don't have to worry.
Benjamin Shire.
Yes. So
Sawyer.
Yes, that was great. You teed us up great. I am T. Cooper. I'm one of the directors of this kind of combination film, Making Samantha, which is a short film music video called I Am Samantha, based on Benjamin's beautiful song called I Am Samantha. And then my wife, Allison, who is the director of the behind the scenes kind of mini doc about the making of I Am Samantha, not able to be here today. But she, followed us around and filmed for the couple days around the set, because it was a really, I would say, historical film, because I cast 27 transgender people in the film, and folks of all experiences, ages, backgrounds. We filmed in Atlanta, so we have just an incredible group of trans folks. And Benjamin's beautiful song, which he'll probably tell you about in a minute, it tells the story of one trans woman. And when I first heard it, and Benjamin and I started talking, and the label, which is Atlantic Records, reached out about, a possible collaboration, upon hearing the song, I was just so, it's beautiful. I hope that y'all have a chance to hear it, but it's just so touching in its universality, despite the fact that it's about a specific transgender person's journey, Samantha. So the idea for the film was really to just make her story all of our stories, and actually turn the world, the quote real world, upside down, and make a trans world where that was the norm. That was just what the world is. And all these beautiful trans folks, offered their space and their bodies and their time, and their visibility, at a time in our country, at least, when well, actually, I would say everywhere, where it is not safe still to be trans and to be openly trans, and especially trans, female, and of color. And in the film, we have a lot of trans women of color represented. So yeah, and as a trans director myself, it was really important for us to tell our own story within this beautiful story, this universal story that Benjamin, wrote in this beautiful song. And so, yeah, we released it during, it's a weird time to release it during a time when like everyone's under siege in a way, but it was important to just hold this space for only trans people. There's literally not a single non-trans or cisgender person on the screen. And in fact, if there was like a bus going by or a car going by and there was someone we didn't cast by accident, like I didn't use that clip, because it just was really important to hold that whole space for those 3 whatever minutes for the trans community. Excellent. Sorry, I'll shut up, Benjamin.
No. Thank you.
What an honor it is to be here with all of you. I'm Benjamin Scheuer. I'm a songwriter originally from New York, and I'm in London, England right now. T, it's a pleasure to see you as always. And hello to everybody in Woods Hole and around the world. In New York, I was talking with my friend Samantha, who is a transgender woman, and we were at a local coffee shop in Greenwich Village, and a song came on the stereo, a song called Sean by the Foo Fighters. And Samantha said to me, Benjamin, there's a song about Sean gets a song. Where's the song about Samantha? And I said, well, Samantha, I'm a songwriter. If you'd like, I could try and write a song with your name in it. Why don't you tell me the story of your name? And that's exactly what she did. And I wrote down what she told me. Now, I'm a cisgender man. My pronouns are he, him. What cisgender means is I was born into the body into which I identify. And of course, transgender means you were born into the body with which you don't identify. And once the song was written and recorded, I'm an artist with Atlantic Records in the United States and Parlophone here in the UK. Samantha and I and the record company all agreed, well, my job as the songwriter is finished in telling this story. Let's continue telling this story of being a trans person with a trans director. And so I was lucky enough to meet T. Cooper, who directed the extraordinary film Man Made, which if you haven't seen, I would highly recommend it, about trans bodybuilders. T put together, as he mentioned, a cast of 27 transgender people, and his wife, who's a documentary filmmaker, interviewed all of them. And so together with the music video and the documentary behind the scenes film, we put them together and made a film called Making Samantha. And that is what's part of the Woods Hole Film Festival. And I'm so very glad to be here with you all.
Excellent. Thank you, Benjamin. I mean, a lot of you touched on this to a degree, to a great degree. But can you talk a little more about what inspired these your movies? Again, a lot of you touched on this already, but why did you personally want to make this film? What was the inspiration? Why don't we start again with Julianne? We'll keep putting you on the spot first.
I'll take it. I mean, I didn't write the film, Tiziana Gianmarino did, but one of the reasons that I was drawn to it was, I think like she was kind of hearing about the attacks in Paris and thinking a lot about that. And I feel like a lot of the times when we have these kind of major big news events, whether it's about a bombing or like some sort of attack on a public space, we all sort of nod and listen and then move on. And, a lot of the times the people that are killed, of course, are the focus, because that's the part that's the most heartbreaking and touching. But meanwhile, there's a whole group of people that survive these events. And how do you deal with that? And how do you move on? And how do you just kind of live a happy life when everyone expects you to feel so happy? And for her instance, I think the thing that drew me to this film was that I knew that we could do something interesting visually and just kind of with my directing cap on. I really wanted our first shot to have so much movement and life. So we shot it with Steadicam, and we did the whole thing in a single take. So the explosion in the cafe happens kind of in real time. So that was a fun challenge, paired with then how our lead character is stuck after that. So then the rest of the film is shot very static. So that was kind of what drew me to that, is I knew it would be a fun thing to film and something I'd never done a oneer. So that was an exciting challenge. But yeah, overall, I just thought it was a story that's really relatable when you feel like you're the person grieving and the world expects you to move on. I think everyone's been there, even if it's not in some sort of a giant bombing situation, but we've all kind of been in those experiences of grief and expected to behave a certain way and struggled with not feeling in touch with the world anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, certainly not to give anything away, but there's like all the films, your film certainly deals with the complexity of humanity and sort of an unexpected perspective on things, and very thought-provoking in that way. It's funny that you would describe it as a fun shoot. I mean, you are sick, Julie.
I know, but I mean, as a filmmaker, it's like you get into these kind of dark subjects and you're like, oh, this is so much fun. And, I mean, despite it being a heavy subject, I think several of my films have heavy subject matter, and I kind of like to keep a light set still. And for everyone to have a good day and feel like they're having an artistic collaboration. And then it's afterward that we can kind of feel all the feels when we're watching it.
When you're watching it, right. No, that's, I know, I was just kidding. And of course, that opening scene is so intense, and obviously the way it filmed has a lot to do with that. You feel like you're in that cafe and probably like the main character, it just happens so fast. And yet clearly enough where you know what's going on, but very fast, which maybe was kind of a trick where, okay, if we want this to go as quickly as we want this sort of frantic activity, and yet somehow use a shorthand where people know right away what's going on. And
yeah, and when I've been in traumatic situations, it's like the quickness at that is such a real thing. You're all of a sudden, it's like, what the hell just happened to me?
Yeah.
So I did want it to feel like that as well. And it's in her memories later in the film that you kind of see a little bit of glimpses more, but it's not even necessarily what happened. It's, you know, you form a memory that you can't quite grasp anymore.
Yeah. And coming to terms with what you do remember. Yeah. Sabrina, how did you get involved with this?
So Tiziana and I are friends, and ironically, we were both in Paris in 2015 when the terrorist attacks happened. So I had a personal connection to the story. And I was always drawn to social impact and social justice films. And I just liked that the story wasn't black and white. I like that it raised a question that can't be answered very easily, if ever. I think people that have survived horrible things like that might not ever know the answer of why they were spared or why other people got killed. And yeah, I liked the examination of that. And I also liked raising the phenomenon of survivor guilt and of, you know, people being more aware of the people that have survived this and not just the people that got killed.
And it's so interesting how the main character, again, not giving anything away, but how she is able to start taking steps toward a kind of recovery. Certainly, well, very, very thought-provoking. Such a lame description, but it really is thought-provoking, and you know, and very universal in its themes, I think. Okay, how about Stephen? Can you talk a little bit about a little more about how you got involved with this? Why and why you chose to. I mean, it's such a commitment for all of you to make the films that you've made. So, why this particular subject?
Why this particular subject? I mean, I don't know what it was like in the States, but when we first started putting this idea together, the refugee crisis was in the news constantly. And actually some of what you were just saying there, Julianne, really resonated, because for myself and my creative partner, Mark, we were very aware that we were just being bombarded with statistics and numbers, and it was so dehumanizing. And so we'd already made one short film before this called Dorothy's Theory, which also had a child in the lead role. It's available online if you'd like to see it, dorothystheory.com, plug. So, and for me, I started screenwriting in 2005, and that was my first foray into writing. And that's when I just realized over a long period of time, I really like telling stories from a child's perspective. I think it's a really magical way into storytelling, and I think it creates a lot of empathy for the audience. So for me and my creative partner Mark, we were talking about how can we engage with this thing that is on the news the whole time. And so we came up with this idea, we came up with this plan to portray this story through the eyes of a child. And also I think there's a crucial point to make as well. For us with Adnan, there was so much news about the journey and people's attempts to enter other countries. And there was a guy we worked with called Hassan Akkad, who is a Syrian refugee himself, very prominent speaker. And he was a co-producer on the film, and he put the words in our head that when you arrive, the real journey begins. And we've made not to give it a national boundary, but we have made a British film in Arabic, and essentially about some of the newest inhabitants of this country. And kind of politically, I want to make that point that this is a British film, and that Syrian people now living in the UK are British people. and Arabic is a language that is used in Britain. So it just became a real passion piece. It started as a conversation over a cup of coffee, and it kind of became the next few years of our lives. And it's been a huge undertaking, and we've been so blessed and so much luck and serendipity along the way. And to work with these two as well, Rahad and Aham, has just been an absolute joy. I mean, just briefly, and Aham can speak for himself, but Aham's father made the journey a few years ago to bring his entire family to safety. And, you know, when we think about how many families didn't survive that journey, it's been really moving to, you know, Aham's father, Amar, is an absolute legend and a hero. And he welcomed us all into their family, into their home, so that, you know, that we could work with Aham and prepare him for the role. So I really think of Adnan as more than a film, and I think of it as a wider project. We've had great engagement with the Syrian community here in the UK. And yeah, it's got a real message at its heart, and it's no coincidence that this charity and this message is something that we're massively aligned to, because we just need to stop seeing the difference with people and just start seeing what makes us the same. And Adnan is a moving film. It makes people cry. It's not sad. I don't think it's sad, but it is very moving, and it engages the heart. And as storytellers, isn't that what we want to do? Engage the heart, create empathy, and then for us as individuals, we have an experience of someone else's experience, and we feel, and then we're just all elevating, hopefully, the relationships in between humans in humanity. So that's me. But Rahad or Aham, if you want to, or maybe Tim, if you want to ask them more direct questions.
Go ahead, you guys. If like, how did you, you know, get involved in the film? But also, you know, if you wanted to add any more to what Stephen said, although I think what he said was perfect, and really a lot of what you said applies to all the films here, in terms of, you know, look, films at their best are good for the soul, and you know, you guys they aren't just films, you know, all of these films are you know, sort of hopefully will inspire some compassion or thought, or different ways of looking at people, ways that maybe we should be looking at people and don't, you know. Anyway, but thank you, Stephen, that was great. But would you guys like to add anything?
For me, I'm an actor, a British actor living in London, but my family are Syrian, so I speak the language, but I've never lived in Syria, so I've always lived in Scotland, which is where I'm from. I'm currently there right now, I'm in Edinburgh right now. And so when I was approached about the film, I 100% wanted to do it because I wanted to share stories of my like other nationality, because I see myself as both, obviously, because I've grown up in Scotland, so and I'm British, so I wanted to show my Syrian side, and I've done, that's a lie, I've done a lot of it on TV, but I hadn't done it in short film. I hadn't done it as a storyline where the story is focused on like this kind of story where the mother is going through PTSD and the son's trying to help. So I was like 100% yes, I want to do this. And what Stephen was saying about the film creating empathy and understanding, that's what I'm all about in my life. It's like, that's the only way I can function is by like just trying to understand other people. Because the minute you put a gap or like some sort of negativity between you and another person, both of your lives are going to be very difficult to live and to enjoy. And why do you need to do that? Why do you have to? Why? Like, just why do you have to do that? Is it not easier and better for you, like mentally, spiritually, everything, just to be nice to each other? Obviously, if someone hurts you, then you work with that. But there's no point for me personally going around life just hating other people. Like, I don't understand it. And that obviously comes from because I am of like two nationalities. So I naturally have that empathy and that understanding. And the way I was brought up as well. So that's what I'm about. So I really wanted to do this film to kind of share that, really. And 100% the story of Syrian people is very important to me, of course, because it's happening. So that was another like big reason why I wanted to do it. And yeah, and I was really excited, and I loved working with Mark and Stephen. And when I met Aham, who plays Adnan, I'd never played a mother before. That was a wonderful experience for me. And also like using a language that I don't use in, I use Arabic with my family, but I don't use it in my everyday life. I speak English. So it was amazing for me to get to act in Arabic because I'd never really learned how to do that. So I went to drama school in the UK. So that was lovely for me to connect to that. And I always say, like, when Aham started calling me Mama, which is mum in Arabic, that like instantly just opened my heart to him to believe that he was my son, because the language that both of us share, which is very internal and like deeply rooted, even if you don't use it every day, just like for me, just cemented that relationship with him. So I love that as well.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, what do you think, Aham?
I'm not sure really. Like Stephen just said it perfectly. I have nothing to add on there really.
I want to just push you a little bit though, Aham. I mean, this whole process started 2 years ago, right? And do you remember, Aham I'm so proud to hear you introduce yourself as an actor. But at the beginning of this process, Aham was not an actor, right? I can say that, right? And do you remember 2 years ago, I turned up with Hassan to your house and did this kind of little casting and got you to improvise some scenes. And can you just say a little bit about the way you feel, the journey that you've been on from who the heck are these guys in my house asking me to be in a film to watching yourself on a big cinema screen, which has now happened, right? Just a little bit about that journey for you.
Oh yeah, so at the start, my dad was like, let's just make a video talking like, what's your name, how old are you, and yeah, and I was really shy back then, and I was just like moving of time. I couldn't stop. And it's amazing that I've seen myself now in the screen, and I'm more confident now, and yeah, I had so much fun making the film.
Did have you worked on any other films since then?
No, I didn't.
No.
Not yet.
Are you planning? But are you planning? Go ahead. Oh, not yet. Right. Of course, just came out. So, but you're planning on pursuing an acting career, continuing. Is that right?
I'll see where life takes me. I don't know.
Good for you. Good for you. That's great.
That's a great answer. That's a great answer. Yeah, I mean, the film just started its festival life in February. Picked some awards at the first two festivals. Thank you very much. And then a certain pandemic decided that there would be no more. Right. So grateful that Woods Hole is happening, because we've just been parked for quite a long time.
Wow. So, yeah, that must be frustrating. You know, the time.
A little bit.
I'm sorry. Ragad.
Silent G.
Rahad, yeah.
Rahad. Yeah, it's funny to see you because, and of course, it's called acting, I know is the answer, but you know, you're right from the beginning with you popping up on the screen, and you've got the big smile, and of course, your your character is so devastated in the movie, so it's interesting to see you as you in a much different way. But both of you work so well together. I'm so glad both of you are here with us, because it really was a beautiful collaboration, the two of you, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's see. So I think next up is in a different realm somewhat, is Circus Act. Penny, can you talk a little bit about, you did mention that obviously it's your dream, but sort of what made you decide to kind of focus on?
Well, it was, I mean, so I came from I started as a playwright, and I've taught writing. And so I'm very structural in my approach to storytelling. And I think of, and so it started as this image, right? This woman who was a bouquet of balloons walking down the street. And so, you know, whenever I start something, you can sort of triangulate stories. Like if you know one thing, you can start asking yourself questions and find the next thing. And then you know two things, and you can sort of, using those two things, find the third thing. And so for me, it was like, all right, so there's a woman who's a bouquet of balloons. Like who would she be in a story with? Like who would be in her world? And as I was thinking about that, I thought, well, it would be a clown, right? Like when I think of balloons, I think of clowns, and which immediately brought to mind circuses, and that's where they would live. They would live in this circus. And then the question becomes like, all right, I have a balloon woman and a clown living in a circus, and like, what's their problem? Like, and I was thinking about what they both have in common, and both of them in my head, like this woman covered in balloons and a clown with like the big baggy clothes and the shoes and the makeup and the hair and the nose. Like, I was like, they're both uncomfortable in their clothes. Like they're both encumbered by this kind of like crazy, ridiculous outfit where we don't see their true selves, right? Like that, and this is a problem that they have in common. And then I was thinking about like some of the routines that go along with circuses and clowning, and how gendered they are. Like there's something about, like, I don't know, somehow the idea of gender as performance kind of came into this. Like the clown, all of his efforts to seduce her are very sort of like straight out of the movies, right? Like the flowers and the sword, and the woman is like doing her like femme fatale, like trying to be sexy, but she's wearing crazy stiletto heels and she's covered in balloons, and so she's uncomfortable. And so the whole idea, so I was like, all right, well, there's the journey of the story is about these two people encumbered by all this stuff and this sort of like these things that are uncomfortable and kind of gendered in their like the performance of gender, and like figuring out ways to kind of get that, you know, get past that and get that off of them so that they can sort of see each other as real people, right? And so then once I knew that, I was like, all right, there's the story, and you know, there's the arc, and then how do we get from here to there? So that was, you know, that kind of just by asking yourself these questions and trying to kind of pin things down, you can sort of start to take the shape of it, I guess.
Yeah.
And
that's interesting. You know, when I was watching it, I was thinking, and it's how long? I think what's the running time? Maybe 8?
It's like 5 minutes. Like
5 minutes.
I don't even think it's 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think with the credits, it's like 5 minutes and 45 seconds.
In the beginning, I was watching it going, okay, you know, this is funny, but where's it going? And I really didn't know at first. And then you realize, you know, oh my gosh, it's, you know, this is about a lot, you know. It's like, you know, just exactly what you described in terms of, you know, how we disguise who we really are, and like people trying to connect, and the barriers, the masks people put on, and that, and it was very very cleverly done, but also it's. I like the way at first you're not quite sure, you know, is this just going to be a goofy romance, or is there something else going on here? And then all of a sudden it hits you. Wow, okay. And I see where this is going when they start sort of discarding the things that hold them back from, leaving themselves vulnerable to each other by showing their true selves.
Yeah, and I give our actors Lawrence and Darian a lot of credit for that. They just had, you know, we auditioned. We were student films with like a student budget, and so we auditioned people, and that like we were just crazy luck that like the two of them came in and they just had this wonderful chemistry together, and they had and they kind of also both had the perfect backgrounds. Like I wanted people, because there's no dialogue, with some physical expressivity to them, and Lawrence had some sort of clowning training and mime, and Darian had a dance background, and so and we actually also brought in a choreographer. Even though there's not really dance in the film, I wanted somebody to kind of help me with the movement of because you just kind of thinking about, because the whole story is told through movement, thinking about that. And so the two of them really just brought so much chemistry and warmth and heart to it, so it was great. And I want to give Ella, I don't know if Ella has anything to add, but I want to
Yeah, Ella, you know, obviously you're dealing with a circus type set, colorful and that, but what were some of the challenges of shooting this?
Well, I think the biggest challenge wasn't even my challenge, it was our production designer's challenge, Bryn, because she had to build a whole circus tent on a stage and, like Penny said, on a student budget. And so that was fantastic to, you know, be able to work to create a custom set piece essentially for our show. And then I also worked really closely with Bryn and then obviously Penny to create the lighting look for this, because we didn't want it to feel like, you know, a very insular tent. We wanted lights outside to make it feel like there is a circus outside of here.
Right.
And also playing with, like Penny was saying, sort of like the stage aspect of it. So we were playing with spotlights and gels, you know, before they have taken their masks off, to sort of emphasize that feeling of this is very performative.
What about, and not to give away the ending, but where things sort of open up a little bit, like was that a challenge as far as shooting it, or?
Definitely. Yeah, we worked a lot before production trying to figure out like exactly shot by shot how that was going to play out in the logistics of spoiler alert, the tent coming down. And once we got onto set, we did quite a few rehearsals to try to figure out the timing, because we had to time the camera movement with the actors, with the fabric of the tent, and then also the balloons, and there were a lot of elements in there.
Yeah.
And then the last shot is done on green screen. It's entirely, so that was all visual effects.
Oh,
and,
okay. All right.
And so so it's, you know, so we, and of course, like we made the classic mistake of like, we'll do the green screen shot at the end because that'll be fast. And no, that is not how that works. So, you know, the last shot we did on green screen, but then, you know, that like we finished the film and it was all done, but that last, you know, 3 seconds where we have like all the visual effects and the elephant and the, you know, the background and all this stuff, like that was another 6 months of trying to get that finished, but it turned out pretty well.
Yeah, I could see where that would be quite a challenge, and but to me it would be so necessary to the film. Sort of like just as in Julianne's film, that opening scene where it must have been a challenge to, you know, take a lot of time to figure out how to make the pace, as you mentioned. With your ending, I could see where that would take an effort.
It was definitely important to me that they get outside the tent and that world feel totally different. But yeah, it took a lot. That last like 2 seconds or 3 seconds was about 80% of the work.
That's where I think all of you filmmakers, probably when you're watching a movie, you're seeing something like your own movie, you're seeing something completely different than what the average moviegoer is seeing, because you're thinking of, oh my God, that was a pain. You know, oh my gosh, I can't believe we pulled that off, and that sort of thing. Well, thank you. Okay, let's see. Jael, can you talk a little more about Pepper, or as we say in Woods Hole, Peppa?
Peppa?
Yeah.
Well, why did I make the film? Oh man, to be honest, like why do we make these short films, you know?
Yeah.
It's so painful. Like, I don't even know why I make it. Like, I spent like 30 grand on it. Like, if I'm gonna be completely honest, I really don't know why. I just made another short film, and it cost me like 40 grand. And it was like the same conservative grandfather who passed away last year. And he left me some money. And my father promised him
Perfect.
Yeah, my father promised him that he would give me that money once I got married.
Yeah.
But then I begged my father, oh, I need like 10 more grand to finish this short.
Yeah.
And my father's like, okay, you know. So I made another social justice themed short film, and I'm wrapping up post-production on it this week, and I'm just like, why am I doing this to myself? You know, I think I'm like, you know, anyway, I should talk about the film, but no, like, I mean, of course the film, you know, like there are serious, you know, there's a serious subject matter in there. Like, I think from a feminist perspective, what interested me was, you know, like sex selective abortions is such a, you know, sort of like the pro-choice and pro-life debate. Like, I mean, it's so divisive. Like, it's like 50-50 among women in the US. But when it comes to sex selective abortions among feminists, there's also like I think it's a pretty divisive subject matter, because do we allow sex selective abortions because it's pro-choice? So what interested me was what happens when a woman's right to choose clashes with a woman's right to live. So I don't think my film was good enough to answer the question, but I think it proposed it, and that it also reminded people that, you know, I guess like, because I'm, you know, Korean American, like Rahad said, like I'm Korean and American, but neither at the same time, you know? So it's sort of like every time I make a film, I inevitably, I think I'm trying to reconcile two disparate cultures. And I think it was sort of like the way I shot it was very Western, like sort of like a music video, like it has rhythm, but it also has the Korean percussion, and it had the fantasy elements of you know, from a Western lens, but the folklore of the Korean goddess of birth is very Eastern, you know? So, but I think like the question, like, it, you know, I feel like a lot of the time, like East Asian culture in particular gets a free pass when it comes to like, you know, gender issues and, you know, women's rights issues. And if you look at Korean society, it's like very androcentric. Like, although like there's, you know, it's a hot topic right now in Western society, in the East, it's pretty clear that it's still an androcentric society. There's institutional sexism. Like, for instance, you can't really change your name to your mom's maiden name. Even if you, after the divorce, you'll have your father's name, you know? So actually, you know, I've experienced it myself. Like, you know, when my parents separated, but they got back together. But anyway, I mean, I changed my last name to my mom's maiden name, returned to Korea, and everyone was like confused, like, how do you have your mom's name, you know? So, but anyway, so I wanted to tackle, like in the 1980s, like there was a campaign by the government. It was like, one well-raised daughter is worth 10 sons. And they had to have this campaign to remind people, come on, have daughters, you know, because they were having too many sons and they were aborting too many female babies, biologically female babies. And so I thought that, you know, the short film was sort of like to my grandfather, like, what if this happened, you know? And from like a technical standpoint, I think I wanted to try to, where you're watching a film and in the middle, like, you remember like the souls come out and they bite into a pepper and then they see their future lives after they're born, like a trailer. But but I wanted to make a film where, like, you're seeing the film and all of a sudden a new film begins. So that was sort of my, from a creative standpoint, that was what I wanted to try to do. But the deeper issue, you know, when it comes to content, I really wanted to spotlight this androcentric value system in Korea that, you know, prefers male offspring to females.
Well, it's yeah, and you use that poster, you know, the one well-raised daughter, or you know, or girl.
One well-raised daughter is worth 10 sons. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, not in a heavy-handed way, but in a way that makes it very, you know, it gets it out there. And
Yeah, imagine like that's like from 1988 during the Seoul Olympics.
Yeah.
To do that campaign, you know. Like,
And it's interesting, you also have sort of the Olympics going on TV at the same time that all this is going on in the hospital.
Yeah.
And what made you decide to include that too?
Oh, I thought like, you know, giving birth, like I wanted to analogize it to a sporting event, like to make it more exciting. So like the announcers, you know, talking about the game sort of mirrors what's going on at the maternity ward. And but what interested me most was in 1988, actually, this one team, South Korean women's team, handball team, had won the gold medal, and they were like, they had no funding, like all the funding was going to the men's handball team, right? So they had no funding, no one believed in them. But then this was during the Cold War too. So it was being spotlighted like all across the world. They were against Soviet Union at the finals. So, and they defeated the Soviet Union, and everyone in Korea was like, what? You know? So I thought like, you know, the irony of it, like, you know, they're all rooting for the men's team, but at the end, it's the female team that wins the gold medal. Sort of like what the result that happens in the film, you know, like he's expecting a guy, but something else happens, you know. He's expecting like a cisgender male, but, you know, the result is quite different.
Right, right. Thank you.
I'm reading this book right now, and a lot of things that you're talking about, the themes are in this book. So I really resonate with what you're talking about gender, like they want boys rather than daughters, and daughters need to be married so they can look after the husband and all this stuff. And I love that your film's about that, because I think it's really important. And you know, there's lots of cultures around the world that have similar outlooks on that. And yeah, it's really important. Yeah, I can't wait to watch your film. Actually, I've not seen it yet. So.
Don't. You might be disappointed though. Like
There's
the way
also,
I talked about it makes it sound so good.
There's also you've just reminded me of a beautiful sentiment that originates. Sorry, lose my ability to speak. Originates in South America. That I believe is something like every time a girl is born, we take a step closer to peace, which I personally love and really kind of echoes with.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, like, this isn't even from 1980s. Like, I have a friend that I really like, but he's very conservative minded. Like, he's a farmer, and I like that he built his own house. But he has 4 daughters right now, and he's like trying another time. He's like trying to have a son. Like, he's like in his 30s, and you know, and he's like, just stop it. I was like, just stop it. But no, he's like, he has to have a son. So I mean, this is like still, you know, pervasive today. Like, you have even my generation, you know, like, because they want to continue the family name. So I was like telling him, like, why don't you force your daughters or convince your daughters to use the maiden name? But then I was reminded, oh, that's not legally possible in Korea. So yeah, so it's I think people should know that about Korea. You know. But at the same time, I was surprised that this film, I thought it was so provocative or controversial. It wasn't at all. Actually, in Korean festivals, this was just one of many social justice themed films. And so, you know, on a positive note, my film wasn't that special in Korean festivals, because there were a lot of especially at the Korean Queer Festival, some amazing films that were, so I mean, just because I say it's androcentric society, but South Korea, like in terms of art, it's very open. It's very, you know, open to feminism and, you know, queer themes. So.
You could put on your poster, you could quote yourself for the film. It's not that special. Anyway.
Because I saw some films that were so
thank
amazing.
you. Okay, so T, could you talk a little more about the film and you know,
Yeah.
I know that Benjamin's friendship and then his song inspired it, but you know, I think you've done well, like, as you mentioned, I think you did the film about bodybuilding, you know, so this is a theme that you've been working on. Well,
Yeah, actually, I was gonna say the film that Benjamin mentioned that he had seen, which led him to my work, is called Man Made, and it follows 4 transgender male bodybuilders as they prepare to compete at the only all transgender bodybuilding competition in the world at the time, and it's mostly trans men of color. And you know, I followed them for like 2 years, and so naturally, in a documentary setting, a lot of stuff's gonna happen. Good and bad and everywhere in between, and also trans related and also entirely not trans related. And so for me, something that I said in the earlier segment or round of questions was how important it is to allow trans people to tell their own stories. And this is not just for trans people, but I'm just speaking about that now, obviously, because this is the subject matter. But the reason, or I'd say one of the reasons, is because when the lens is not also coming from inside the house, I think the focus is often on the otherness and what makes trans people different. And it's also pathologized, or it's about trans related body stuff or surgery or, you know, body. What makes these people, why are they so different? And so I think it's a natural lens that the folks who are also making decisions about what stories get told and what gets made and who gets to tell them, they're also looking through that lens. So they're focusing on that difference all the time. And I get that, it's natural. You know, it's where a lot of like documentary photography started. You know, when the technology of photography started working, a lot of white people who had means were like, cool, let's go to these places and take pictures of these different people and show the world. You know, like, I get it, but it's, you know, we're 100 years past that now or more. And so that's why for me, when this project came along, it wasn't just like, cool, let's make a film and put a bunch of trans people in it and make it gritty. It was like, let's make a beautiful world where it's like, it's shiny, it's beautiful, the color treatment, the way that we shot it, the scenes that we, you know, the settings that we picked, work with my DP, Charlie Fisk, who was so lovely and also ended up editing Man Made with me and also shot a little bit of Man Made with me, although I shot most of that myself, and you can tell. But anyway, yeah, like the point was to make it a beautiful, perfect, shining world where everyone just happened to be trans. There's not like, look over here, here's a trans person, look over there, there's another one. You know, it was like, it was just such an opportunity to just turn that upside down on its head. Like most of the crew was LGBT or trans or female or folks of color. There was literally 2 people who weren't. And just the whole vibe of that, I think, felt really, yeah, Benjamin was one of them. But yeah, just the whole vibe was really like that was the point, was to just let us show us, you know, at our best. And it's kind of cool to get to take time and hold space for that, and not how hard it is or how hard it is on families or, you know, whatever. Like, it just made it, you know, that's the real world. And then the cis world was the not real world.
Yeah. And I think it's, it might be the final shot, but it's certainly one of the final shots. It's like, you know, it's a group shot, and it's a scene of triumph.
Yeah.
You know, you've got a group of smiling people who feel good about themselves and good about each other, and which seems like that's right along with what you're trying to say, you know, that.
Yeah, it's just, it's in the world. Yeah, obviously the world is, you know, there's so much news all the time about the attacks on our rights to, and our access to health, you know, health insurance and housing and employment and fairness in incarceration, and so, you know, so many, not to mention just being murdered in the streets with no you know, repercussions, so to speak. But yeah, that shot that you're talking about, that last shot, it was the only space that I felt as a director I was hoping to, well, I just wanted to shoot the hell out of everything and have it, but in my mind it was like, that's where we were going to break it down and go with like a verite, just let the joy, you know, show. And so it really, and I wish we didn't have the whole cast that day because we had to shoot on 2 different days, but it was just so lovely to see the exuberance, and we actually saved it to last for that reason, so that folks
Mm.
could leave afterwards. And I
Yeah.
think that it just made it built it into yeah, it felt like it was a beginning, middle, and end for everybody there, not just the crew.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Well, unfortunately, we're past 11 and they've been sending me messages. I wanted to hear a little more from Benjamin. If you, Ben, that's a beautiful song and I highly recommend everybody listen to it and watch all of your movies. I think you'll enjoy them. Thank you so much. It really has been a privilege to talk to all of you. You've been great, and good luck with everything that you're doing. You know, you're on the side of the angels.
Thank you, Tim.
Hopefully someday I'll see you in Woods Hole.
Yes, thanks for
Yes,
having us.
next year, Woods Hole.
Thank
That's
you.
great. Thank you.
All right, thank you.